guys are gonna see the junkiness behind me, so I'm gonna try to set this up to where it's not too bad. You can still see it, but that's okay. Anyway, so this is my makeshift office while we're in Japan. I had to move everything upstairs. So this is actually our junk room. But I started using it because trying to get work done downstairs with the TV and everything else on was just too much. So so I kind of migrated up here and I took Jazzy's desk, which she wasn't using it anyway, so it didn't really matter. But so I took her desk and I set stuff up here. So please forgive the background. It's not all nice and pretty. But I've been meaning to do this video for a long time. I've had a lot of people asking me about this. It's something that I kind of brought up. It's been, what, since last year is when I first started doing a lot of research on it. I was doing a prep for the competition in Virginia in July, and I started doing a lot of research on this and actually using it during my prep. So I have YouTube Live going, I have Facebook Live going. Hi Elsie. So I wanted to try to set it up this way because I wanted to allow people to be able to ask questions and things like that while we're going. Now I am going to throw this out here. I am, the reason I know what I know is because I do a lot of research. So I might not know all the answers, but I do take notes and I do relay as much information as I have. If you ask a question and I don't know the answer to it, I will find the answer. So please ask your questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Gonna try to make this video a little bit straight to the point. I don't have too much time right now, but I have been meaning to do this and I've been telling people I was gonna do this, so I had to go ahead and do it. I finally have the house to myself and I actually have a chance to do it, so I wanted to get it done. When I first started doing the research on this, the reason I did is because I had a couple clients, including myself, who it's really difficult for me and a couple other women to lose that little bit of extra fat that you have when it comes down, especially in a prep, when it comes down to crunch time. So I started doing a lot of research. I knew a lot of it had to do with hormones, but especially one that most people haven't really heard of, and it's called leptin. So it's basically your fat burning potential in women and men. Women actually have 3 times more, but due to the fact that we are childbearing, genetics doesn't allow us to use it very much. So this is why when I have couples, I always tell them that, the female, you're not going to see the changes as quickly as the male. Sorry. So I always have to tell them that. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to bring out my notes on leptin. I did take a lot of notes last year when I was doing the research. So I just want to kind of read off some of the stuff so I don't forget anything. Basically, leptin is the hormone that controls 100% of women's bodies' ability to burn fat. Like I said, we have 3 times as much according to the science. Some of the research said twice as much. Some said three times as much. Basically, we have more than men, except for our bodies don't want to use it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Let's see. Okay, this was a big thing, and this is why I wrote it down. When we're dieting, leptin levels drop significantly, if I can read and talk, causing slow metabolism. So this is something, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth, so hopefully I don't confuse anybody. I've actually been introducing what's called a diet break to a couple of people that I've been working with, just because when we diet and we diet, and this does not mean like a meal plan diet, I have to eat exactly the same thing every single day diet. This is, hey, I'm in a caloric deficit everyday diet. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say diet. When we restrict ourselves so much for a long period of time, our bodies just start to hang on to everything. All right, so I've actually been implementing the diet breaks just to kind of see how that works with certain people. But this is one of the things that it helps boost as well. All right. One of the reasons why weight loss plateaus occur: constantly dieting, not refueling the body properly. Even in my preps, I refuel. So I might be at like some kind of crazy low caloric level, 1200 to 1300 calories, but I have a refeed day where I'm back up to about 1800 even a week or two before my prep or before the show. I was still doing that. So that's just what my body needs, and I know that. So I was making sure I was doing it. When you come off of your diet, your leptin levels are low and your fat piles back on after dieting once you stop it for a long period of time. So this is what happens when people diet for a long time for shows, and then they don't reverse diet back up strategically, and then they just gain all that body fat back, or all that fat back. And that's kind of, it happened to me my first show too, and it really sucked, to be honest. So but that's one of the reasons why. Let's see. So I already mentioned the childbearing. That's why our bodies don't like to use leptin. After pregnancy, our levels drop significantly, which is why it's very difficult to lose the weight after having a baby for some people. Not everybody, for some people. And then how do we tap into leptin? Okay, so this is where the intermittent fasting came into play. All right, a lot of the research was saying that one of the ways to unleash it was to do like a 12-hour overnight fast, which is easy, right? Because we're usually sleeping. I normally only get about 5 hours. I know I don't get enough sleep, but it's enough for me. I usually get around 5 hours of sleep, sometimes 5.5 on the weekends, maybe 6. But if I get more than that, I'm actually more tired. So that's just how I operate. I've been like that for years. Maybe one day it'll catch up to me, but for right now it works. So what I was doing is I would actually stop eating at a certain time, which was easy because I'm most active early in the morning. So I would stop eating at a certain time of the day, and then I would, start back up after my workout. Now, I normally didn't work out on an empty stomach, so that was very difficult for me at first. So what I kind of did was I would have like a little snack right before, not something, not too big or anything like that, but just to kind of tide me over through my workout. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no, like I said, there's no rules to this. You have to just kind of learn what works for your body if you're going to try it. But it's really better for those who are in a caloric deficit. If you're in a surplus and you're doing the intermittent fasting, unless you can eat a lot at one time, which a lot of people can't, you're probably not going to meet your numbers in the allotted amount of time. So just kind of keep that in mind. It really just depends on what your goals are. When I'm prepping, I'm obviously in a caloric deficit. So when you're going from a surplus to a deficit, it's really easy to overeat because your body's so used to taking in a lot of calories. Before my prep last year, I was actually up to about 3,000 calories, and then I dropped down to about 1,800. So that's a significant drop. Now, of course, I did that a little bit over time. It wasn't like a real quick drop, but it was significant. So once I got down to about 1,800 and lower, I started doing the intermittent fasting just because it kept me from overeating, basically. But yeah, so one of the things that it did mention, the research mentioned, was trying the overnight fasting, 12 hours to 16 hours. Some people can do more. I like to eat, you guys, so it was actually pretty hard for me, but once I got used to it, it wasn't so bad. But again, you have to listen to your body. There were days that I knew that I needed to eat something, so I did. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, I can't eat because I have to wait a certain amount of time. That's stressful. That puts a lot of stress on your body. And if you operate like that, it's really going to end up backfiring. So just be careful with what you're doing and how you're thinking about things. So one of the things I said for the overnight fast, If you're more active in the morning like me, stop eating around 6 p.m. the night before, and then don't eat again until around 6 a.m. the next day. So again, that was after my workout. So I would usually ingest like a post-workout shake, and then sometimes, depending on what I had going on that day, I would come home and just fix like a really big, nice breakfast, and that would be my first meal of the day, which I do that a lot anyway now. But it's not, I don't consider it intermittent fasting. It's just, that's my first meal of the day. It's when I have time to eat it. So that's what I do. And then I put on days that you're less active, try fasting a little bit later, maybe like 9 or 10. Some people sleep a little bit later, so if you're one of those people who get to sleep later, then that's really not a big deal to go a little bit longer. One thing I really want to point out is women cannot stay in a caloric deficit for too long. They need to refeed at least once every few days if you're in a serious caloric deficit. Now, if you're in a small caloric deficit, that's not really going to be a big deal. I know I get a lot of pushback from women, especially I had one today that I said, hey, we're going to bump your calories up way high for like a week, and then we're going to go back down. And I'm pretty sure she's at her house freaking out. She's not on here right now, but I was hoping she would get on here. But you got to trust me, guys. I do a lot of research on this stuff, and I try it myself. And I don't just tell you things that I've never done. So just trust me, okay? There's a method behind the madness, all right? Because women, we can't stay in a caloric deficit too long. It's actually really bad for your metabolism. So, like, I would hear, especially this last prep, I heard a few people were telling me about a couple girls who were on like a 1,200 calorie diet for like 6 months. That's just crazy. Like, I don't know how they're doing now. I hope they're okay. But that's a great way to screw up your metabolism. I mean, really. Anybody who has any kind of nutritional background, who has taken biochemistry or anything like that, they will know that. So they should not have you on any kind of crazy diet like that for 6 months. That's just ridiculous. Especially if you're not getting refeeds and things like that. And how can you build muscle off of 1,200 calories? I don't know. Anyway. All right. So if you want to try the intermittent fasting and you're one of my nutrition team members, make sure, or Kelly, if you want to try it and you have one of us as your coach, make sure you let us know, because we can actually calculate it out for you instead of you having to do the guesswork for yourself. Okay. And we'll make sure that we lead you in the right direction if this is something that you want to try. For anybody who is already in somewhat of a deficit, it doesn't have to be a huge deficit, but if you're in somewhat of a deficit, you should be able to try this with no problem. But if your calories are a little bit higher, then you might need to figure out how you're going to do it, because it might require larger meals, and some people aren't really good with that. So for some people, this isn't going to help them. This isn't going to work, because, I have some people who can't really eat larger meals at one time. This is more for people who like larger meals, like I do. I like to eat a lot at one time, just because most of the time I don't have time to snack throughout the day, and I'd rather just get it all in at once. So for me, it works, but it doesn't work for everybody. So please believe you do not have to think that the only way to weight loss is to do intermittent fasting, okay? There's so many things out there that people think are the cure-all, which in all actuality, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're meeting your calories, you're meeting your numbers, your macronutrients, and even your micronutrients. If you're doing all that, you're gonna see results, whether you're doing intermittent fasting or anything else. If you are having problems overeating though, then you can go ahead and try the intermittent fasting. Just make sure you're still hitting your numbers. That's the main thing. It did mention, some of the research I was doing mentioned a thing called ego depletion. All right, so ego depletion is basically delaying the first meal of the day, which is typically easier. It's easier for me not to eat until later in the day. And then it's a lot easier to do that than pushing the last meal of the day forward. So I don't like to eat right before I go to bed. I go to bed pretty freaking early. Like, I try to be in bed by 9 o'clock at the latest because I get up super early. So I'm not going to try to be eating a meal at 8 o'clock. I'm just not. I am doing nighttime exercising now some days. But for the most part, I try to do it during the day. So that way, towards the end of the day, I'm not as hungry. But I don't really, like I said, I don't really think about it as like intermittent fasting. It's just what works for me. And I just keep doing that. More about the ego depletion though. It's a psychological phenomenon that can be explained as follows. So here it is, you guys. This is ego depletion. We all start each day with a full tank of gas of willpower or mental and emotional energy. And I know we all do, right? We all get up ready to conquer the day. And then what happens? The day starts. All right. Anyway, this willpower is referred to as ego. This is the willpower you use to avoid eating, but it's also the same mental energy you use to deal with stresses you face at work, with family life, exercise, driving in traffic, dealing with people all day, and just your life in general. Okay? That depletes your ego, right? Like, we wake up, we're ready to conquer the world, and we have this great ego, and then life happens. All right? And that depletes us. So we have to really fight back with that, okay? So there's more about it. It says, throughout the day, this reserve of mental and emotional energy becomes depleted, and your ability to resist temptation gets weaker. That's the ego depletion. Some of the research I found, it was saying the easiest way to cut back on food and avoid cravings and temptations earlier in the day, it is easier to cut back on food and avoid cravings and temptations earlier in the day because your willpower and ego reserve is the highest. Towards the end of the day, when your reserve of willpower is drained from the stresses of daily life, you become less capable of resisting temptation. All right. And this is from a Venus website. So I did actually do the research, don't worry. One of the things that it mentions is, it says, many women have found it better to save more of their calories towards the end of the day when cravings start to occur. However, if you do not have cravings later in the day, this isn't necessary. It all just depends on when you are most active. The main point is staying with your calorie and macro needs your coach has set forth for you. So see, I didn't make that up. All right, this is the research. This is what's out there. So it's really just about, having that mindset, knowing yourself, and just knowing, okay, this is when I'm most active throughout the day. This is when I'm most hungry throughout the day. Am I eating just because I'm bored, or am I eating because I'm hungry? That's another thing you need to figure out. If you're bored, find something else to do. If you're eating because you're hungry, then make sure you're eating good foods that are nutrient dense and that are going to fill you up. Okay. So that's it for that. That's it for the leptin. Okay. So that's why I started doing the research on intermittent fasting. But I did come across another article about intermittent fasting that was written by a registered dietitian. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Trin Lee, I believe. But anyway, it came across on a MyFitnessPal email. All right, so basically it was just talking about intermittent fasting, what it is about, and basically it's not about what you're eating, it's about when you're eating, just the time frame. That's all it is. You'll do some fasting and some non-fasting. So if you do the overnight fasting, you're normally not going to eat while you're sleeping, right? Or people who are on like a night shift schedule, they can actually flip-flop that. So they can not eat while they're sleeping during the day and then start eating later on in the middle of the night. It's the same idea, okay? You just have to figure out what works and what your time schedule is. Hey, Gina. Let's see where, if I want to bring up some more stuff. Just like everything else. So we have all these and I'm going to call them fads because everybody tries them because they hear that it's the latest and greatest, right? here's the thing. You cannot beat science, okay? If you're meeting your calories, you're meeting your macronutrients that your coach has given you, you're going to be okay. Whether you're doing intermittent fasting, I don't really do keto for people anymore just because I believe that's a fad and I don't think it's sustainable. I have had a couple people that I did the calculations for a long period of time. A couple of them were able to sustain it, but for the most part, it's just not. If you're eating to your needs, you shouldn't have to restrict yourself in any way. The calorie restriction's a little bit different, but other than that, I don't think that I like carbs. So I just, I'm going to eat what I want to eat. So, and that's the beauty of the flexible eating. So I try to stay away from anything that has rules, all right? The flexible eating is flexible for a reason. It's flexible for your schedule. Everybody has a different schedule. The thing that helped me out the most was when I stopped trying to eat or to build my schedule around my food and instead built my food around my schedule. That was the best thing I could have done for myself. It was so stressful trying to get, 6 meals a day in, or, oh my God, I got to eat every 2 hours. It was just very stressful, especially when I was in the lab. We couldn't eat in the lab, and I was a student, so I didn't get breaks like crazy, So it's just one of those things that you just have to be able to figure out. And to me, it was just a lot less stressful. So my body started burning fat, for one, because I was less stressed. So that helped out a lot. Okay, so with the intermittent fasting, there's different ways that it can be done. Some people actually fast for like a whole entire day, or they eat really, really, really low calories for a little bit. I would actually say not to do that if you're one of my clients. If you're not one of my clients and you want to try different things, hey, that's on you. But if you're one of my clients, we eat to perform. We eat, to our needs. So I don't want you trying to fast for like 2 days and passing out, especially if you're doing a workout plan that I've devised for you. So, we need to make sure that you're eating to perform and you're getting what you need. All right, so we're not going to do those crazy ones. But I will say the overnight fasting was pretty easy. So if anybody wants to try it, I will say the overnight fasting is good, and it still serves the same purpose. All right. Let's see. One of the things that this article says, it does say intermittent fasting can be effective for weight loss, although it's not necessarily better than other methods. All right. And this was done by, this was a 2015 review of 12 clinical trials. And then they did a 2017 randomized control trial of 100 healthy but obese adults, found that after 1 year, weight loss was comparable between intermittent fasting and daily caloric restriction. So it was basically the same thing, right? And then when you add in the refeeds and you're in caloric restriction, man, you're going to see those results. So if you're not sure about what you need to be doing, hire a coach, hire somebody who knows. Do your research and ask questions. Don't just do stuff because somebody else does it, all right? And find out what works for you. The article goes on to say choosing intermittent fasting over more traditional caloric restriction comes down to individual preference and biology, which is kind of what I said earlier. Everybody's different, right? I say that all the time. Everybody's different. There's no one size fits all for any of this. All right, you have to figure out what works for you. It says in here, we are currently conditioned to eat 3 square meals with snacks in between, but that doesn't mean everyone thrives on this schedule. Yeah, I usually do about 2 bigger meals, and then, I'll have a few snacks or whatever, but that's it. That's what works for me. Then it says, one person may claim skipping a meal gives them more energy, while another goes hangry if they miss just one snack. And then it says some people do better on daily calorie restriction because they like an incremental change in regular meals. Others might find daily restriction wears away their willpower, and they prefer intermittent fasting so they can front load their calorie restriction to just a few days. Yeah. So, again, no one size fits all, right? I think my YouTube video just froze. Sit here looking at both of them. Um, so this article, this article is called "Ask the RD: Is Intermittent Fasting Really Helpful for Weight Loss?" And this is on. This was from MyFitnessPal. So if anybody's looking for that, that's what it's called. It says intermittent fasting can be a safe choice for weight loss, but it all depends on how you approach it and how your body responds. Fasting is not for everyone, and you shouldn't try intermittent fasting if you are pregnant, diabetic, or healing from a traumatic event such as surgery. Okay, so if you're one of those three categories, don't try it, just eat. Alright, it says critics of intermittent fasting also point out that all this emphasis on restriction can backfire and encourage binging, which is not good. Alright, so we don't want any binging. So if you feel like the intermittent fasting is causing you to want to binge, I would say stay away from it and just go back to eating to your needs. Alright. I just got my YouTube video back. I'm not sure if that's going to be frozen for that duration or what. This is the first time I've been able to get the Facebook Live and the YouTube at the same time, so it's pretty cool. But I haven't had any questions come up. I've only got 2 people on. Well, actually, it looks like only 1 person is watching. So maybe I'll get some questions later and then I can answer those. But like I said, I was just doing this video because I've been meaning to do it for a while. So hopefully it helps you guys out just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and go into a little bit more of this article. Let's see. It says the human body is designed to deal with fasting. It did not evolve to have food every hour of the day. Very true. If you think about, back the cavemen, right? They would feast and then they would fast. And then they would feast and then they would fast. And this is how we were kind of genetically prone to being able to fast. Technically speaking, we can go hours without food and our bodies are going to be okay. It's more here that messes us up than anything. Or having that food right in front of us and we're like, oh, we must eat because it's right in front of us. Not necessarily. All right. It does say when you fast, insulin levels drop, so that allows your cells to release stored fat and use it more effectively. But that's why diabetic patients should not be doing this because of the whole insulin thing. It says fasting also stimulates a housekeeping process called autophagy. With no food around to process, your cells can use that spare time to remove damaged or misfolded proteins. It doesn't matter if you choose intermittent fasting or daily caloric restriction. Fasting for a few hours enables your body to fulfill this important task. So, like I said, when you're sleeping, that's actually usually what your body's doing, and that's why we still burn calories when we're sleeping. Your body's trying to get rid of all the junk from the day. The problem is some people put too much junk in their bodies every single day, and their bodies can't keep up. So that's where the weight gain comes into play. It goes on to say, it's important to note that fasting is not the same as starvation. Going for days without eating or eating a very low-calorie diet indefinitely is not safe. All right, so that goes back to your refeed days that I was talking about earlier. It goes into 3 different fasting ways to fast. If anybody wants to try it, again, you need to figure out what works for you. And if you're one of my clients or Kelly's clients, please make sure you talk to us before you just go ahead and start trying this so we can guide you, okay? There's one called alternate day fasting. I've heard people do this. I personally don't plan on doing this. Sorry, I just don't. I like to eat. Alright. This is known as Eat, Stop, Eat. Alright, this plan involves fasting on 3 to 4 non-consecutive days per week. A 24-hour fasting phase is allowed by a non-fasting day where you can eat as much as you like. To me, that kind of seems like binging. So I would prefer no one that I work with do that, okay? There's another one called modified fasting. It's a 5-to-2 ratio fasting plan. That means you fast on 2 non-consecutive days per week, where you eat between 20 to 25% of your daily calorie needs. And then on non-fasting days, you can eat normally. So if you're going to do that, I would say this would be great with like a workout plan that has 2 rest days. So on your rest days, you could do your 20 to 25% of your calorie needs, and then the rest of the week do what you're supposed to be doing. And this is just something to try. It's not foolproof. None of this stuff is foolproof, you guys. None of this is saying this is going to work for you. And I think that's the thing that people forget. Everything that's out there, there's nothing that can say this is exactly what is going to work for you. Nope. You just have to try things and you have to see how it goes, okay? The other one is called time restricted eating, and this is where you fast anywhere from 8 to 20 hours per day. So this is where the overnight fasting would come into play. It says you can eat freely during your non-fasting hours. Schedule your fasting hours overnight to make it easier. All right, and then the verdict at the end of this article, it says exactly what I just said. There's no one-size-fits-all diet for weight loss. Very true. Intermittent fasting can be helpful, but first consider whether it fits into the lifestyle you want to lead, okay? It has to be sustainable. That's the big idea, okay? If you try fasting and it's not for you, cutting calories the old-fashioned way can still help you lose weight, but not too many calories. And sometimes that's exactly what people do. They slash their calories too low, and then they're still not seeing results, okay? And then it says, listen to your body, pick the plan that works for you. Regardless, don't forget, calorie quantity matters too. As you're losing pounds, nourish your body with nutrient-dense foods, including fruits, veggies, grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats, which is what I've been telling people for years. As soon as I started learning all this stuff, I've been sharing the information. So this is nothing new. The research has been out there for a really long time. It's just, when people hear about things, they think it's new. It's really not. But just make sure you guys are asking questions. Like I said, if you're one of mine or you're one of Kelly's, if you're with the 2B Epic family, I should just say, make sure you're asking us and let us help you. Don't just try something that you're not sure about, okay? So hopefully this helps somebody out there. I'll try to share the video, especially the YouTube video. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know, okay? All right, that's all I have for right now. So I'm going to try to do more videos more periodically. We've had a lot of things going on lately within the company and just personal life period. So I haven't been able to do as much, but I do plan on doing more of these videos, just trying to get more information out there and try to help people out. So hopefully this did help. And like I said, if you have any questions, just let us know. All right. Have a great weekend. Yeah. Bye.